Hey guys, welcome back. In this video we're going to be taking a look at exporting with SVN. Now exporting is very similar to copying with SVN in that it is going to give you a copy of the files in the repository or the directory you pass the command. However, with copying it also creates the metadata files that are necessary for SVN to maintain the copy and allow it to still be maintained through the SVN system. When you do an export, you're only getting the actual files. You're not getting any of that extra metadata, so your export will no longer be managed through SVN. And this can be useful if a client wants the latest versions of the files, but they don't want to have to be bothered going through SVN to get them. That's when you would want to do an export of the files. So that's just going to leave you with just the files and remove all that metadata, and then you can go ahead and zip that up and send it off. So you're just sending them the smallest file possible, and you're also sending them only the files that they're going to care about. So let's go ahead and open up our command prompt, and let's navigate into our command line 1 folder, which is in users, RyanZek, desktop, and command line 1. Now the command in order to do an export is using the SVN utility. It's the export command. So it's SVN export. And just like with copy, you can either pass this a relative path to a working copy on your computer, or you could pass it a URL to the actual server itself. Now let's go ahead and start off with doing an export from the working copy. So we want to do an export of trunk, and we want to put that into our desktop, so we'll go up a directory, and let's just do command line 1 export 1. And hit enter. You notice how it just says export is complete. And if we go ahead and take a look at the folder that was created, you notice how we have file 1 and a directory 1 with file 1-1 in it. Now if we wanted to do the same exact thing, but we're going to go ahead and this time we're going to pass it a URL to the actual server. So it's going to be SVN localhost command line, and then we're going to pass it trunk. And we're going to go ahead and save it to our desktop again, and we're going to call this command line 1 underscore export 2. Yep, spelled command line 1 as well. Hit enter. And you'll notice this time when we did the export, it actually showed you the list of the files that it added. So whenever you give the export command a URL, it's actually going to show you what it's exporting, and then it's going to actually tell you what revision the export was completed on. So if we go ahead and take a look at that folder, you notice it's the same exact thing. Now that shows you how to do an export from the command line. Let's go ahead and can delete these two folders. Let's take a look at how we can do it from Tortoise SVN. There's actually a few different ways and a few additional things that we can do with Tortoise SVN. Now if we go ahead and right click on Tortoise SVN 1, let's go ahead and right click on our trunk. And if we go to the Tortoise SVN, you'll notice an export option. Now right here you see it allows you to select the folder, so we're just going to go to desktop, create a new folder, and we'll call this Tortoise 1 export 1. Okay, and that is now created. If we take a look up here, you'll notice we have export and version files too. So whenever you right click on a working copy, it's going to perform that export on the working copy itself. And this checkbox will allow you to actually export files that aren't currently on the repository itself. So if it's something you've just placed in there that you might or might not add, but you want to keep it when you do your export, you have this box checked. And then this box allows you to omit externals, but we haven't gone through externals yet, so you can leave that checked or unchecked, as it won't matter since we won't have any currently. Now something to note when you do an export from Tortoise SVN is that whatever folder you're in or you clicked on, it's actually going to have that as the root folder. So when I click the export here, inside my Tortoise 1 export 1, we're going to have a folder called trunk, and then we're going to have the files inside there. So if I click OK, it performs the export. And if we take a look at that folder, notice how we have the trunk, and then we have all our files. But again, we don't have any of the SVN files that are normally accompanied with these files. Now the second way of performing an export is you can perform an export on an empty directory, or any directory for that matter. If we go ahead and create a folder, Let's just call this Tortoise 1 export 2. And we right click on this folder and we go to Tortoise SVN. We have that export option. But you notice now it's actually asking me for the URL. So whenever you right click on a folder and ask for an export that currently isn't a working copy, it's then going to assume that you want to do an export from a server. In which case we could pass it our command line 1 / well, we don't want to actually pass it that. We want to pass it our tortoise /trunk. And this is the correct file. This allows you to say if you want a full recursive, if you want immediate children including folders, or just the file children, or just the particular item in the URL that you specified. And again, this allows you to omit or include externals, and this is just the end of line style, which we can leave as default. And then this allows you to go ahead and select revision. So we're just going to keep everything like that. Click OK. Notice how the export told you, okay, it added these files to this folder. We click OK and take a look inside of here, and you notice how we now have the file 1 in our directory again. Same thing as before, except the export didn't create that trunk folder, but that only happens when you export with Tortoise SVN from a working copy. So this covers everything I wanted to go over with exporting files from SVN. Thanks.